Hello, everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, I'm David. A normal dad living with my wife and little daughter Lily in a suburban house in the countryside. We moved here 2 months after I got promoted at work. From the very first day, Lily became extremely attached to her new room. She said she had a friend named Jack who lived in her closet. I laughed and thought it was just an imaginary friend, something all kids have. But there was something about the way Lily said it that made my heart go cold. She didn't sound at all like a 5-year-old talking about an imaginary friend. She said Jack didn't like me. Jack said I was a bad person and shouldn't come into his room. I thought it was just a child's prank and didn't care. But now, Lily didn't want to sleep alone. She started crying loudly whenever I entered the room. Some nights I heard strange noises coming from the baby's room. A sound like someone was shaking a chair, then a small laugh, a sob in the middle of the night. One time I opened the door and saw Lily sitting in the middle of the room, looking at me and holding a teddy bear. I asked her what she was doing. She just looked at me and said coldly, Jack was standing behind her. My heart stopped. I turned around, but there was nothing. I told myself it was just the pressure of work making me imagine. But now, I started to see things that couldn't be explained. The wardrobe door was usually opened, but Lily's pillow was suddenly out of place, and small handprints appeared on the wall. One rainy night, I was sitting in the living room when I heard my daughter calling from upstairs. I answered it, but then I heard Lily's voice from the bedroom next door saying that she hadn't called me. My heart went cold. I walked up the stairs, step by step, in the dark. When I opened the bedroom door, I saw the wardrobe door wide open, and Lily's pillow was placed in the middle of the room, as if someone had just put it down. I walked to close the door and felt a cold wind blow across my wrist, as if someone was inside. From then on, I locked the door every night, but Lily was always crying, saying that Jack was sick and would make us suffer. One night, I was awakened by a scream from my daughter's room. I rushed in to find the door wide open and Lily standing in the shadows, her eyes wide open, her mouth smiling. She said Jack wanted to talk to me. I realized the room was dark. It was morning, but there was no light source. A tall, cloaked figure appeared behind the girl, moving slowly towards me. I told my wife to call the police, but when she returned, only Lily was hugging her knees and laughing. Those images still haunt me now. I began to learn about the history of this house and discovered that a year ago a boy had disappeared from this room. His name was Jack. From that day on, I no longer thought of it as a fantasy, but as something much more. I'm David, and I still remember that night. The coldness of my daughter's room still pierced my skin every time I walked by. After I discovered the missing boy was Jack, I tried to explain to myself that it was just a coincidence. But Lily didn't think so. She became more subdued, less cheerful, and every time I tried to ask about Jack, she just winked and turned away. My wife, Sarah, thought it was just a developmental stage, but I felt differently. Something was wrong in this house. One night, when it was raining, I heard a sound like a knife being scraped on the floor. I opened the door to Lily's room and found it wide open. On the floor, many toys had been knocked over, but Lily was still asleep. I closed the door and went downstairs. When the light came on, I saw little signs written on the wall, but they only said Jack didn't like me, that Jack wanted me to leave this house. I stood still, my heart pounding, sweat running down my arms. I called Sarah, but when she came in, all the signs were gone, as if they had never existed. Sarah looked at me with concern and told me to rest, but I knew I wasn't paranoid. I put a small camera in Lily's room to record the night. When I reviewed the video the next morning, around 2 a.m., the door began to open slowly even though there was no wind. Then I saw a small shadow, the shape of a baby, come out, standing near Lily's bed. I zoomed in on the screen and saw a small, indistinct boy's head staring straight into the camera. I couldn't sleep that night. I decided to call the whole family and go away for a few days. But I didn't know that when we left, Jack followed. At the hotel, Lily laughed something to an invisible person. She said Jack didn't like it and wanted to go home. Sarah thought it was just a joke, but when I turned on the TV, the screen flickered and a short message appeared. I turned it off immediately. That night, while I was sleeping, I felt someone put their feet up. I opened my eyes and saw nothing, but the corners of the room echoed with small laughter. It wasn't Lily's laughter, but another boy's. I looked out the door and saw my little shadow standing there. I rushed to catch it, but only the smoke disappeared into the air. From that moment on, I knew I couldn't get away from Jack. We went back home. I took Lily to school. Sarah went to work. I was home alone and decided to go into her room to see what was inside her clothes. When I opened the door, I saw a small tear on the floor, as if someone had held a knife to it. There was something black in the tear, like the skin had been burned many times. I felt a heavy feeling in the air, like someone was watching me. Then slowly, I heard a child's voice behind me clearly saying Jack didn't want him here. I turned around, but there was no one, only my own shadow reflected on the wall, but it was smiling. After hearing that voice, I was no longer the same person. Every night I lay awake, listening to every little sound, every whisper in the dark night. Lily became sleepy. Every morning she told me that Jack was unhappy, that I had invaded her place. I tried to face her, but she just smiled coldly and said that Jack did not like to be seen. One morning, I saw on Lily's desk a painting with a circle of black and red. In the painting was a faceless boy standing behind a man. In the middle of the room was a circle drawn in thick black. I asked Lily who drew this painting. She said Jack did it while my mother and I were sleeping. I tried to erase the painting, but I found that the bloodlines on the paper did not run, but only got darker. From that day on, the house became stuffy. The light in the hallway was dancing, even though I saw darkness. Sarah began to see a baby in the house, standing at the end of the hallway looking into the bedroom. Some nights, Sarah and I heard the sound of a baby coming from Lily's room. When I opened the door, the baby was fast asleep, but the clothes were still open and the sound of a baby talking to her. I turned on the flashlight and shone it into the bedroom and saw a small cat that had died at some point. Sarah was terrified and said we had to leave immediately. I agreed, but the next morning when I packed my bags, Lily was gone. I searched all over the house, even up to the air conditioner, but couldn't find her. When I went down to the kitchen, I saw on the table the little girl with blood on her back with Jack. I was so cold. Sarah burst into tears. We called the police, but all they found was a small piece of Lily's shoulder torn near the door of her dress. While they were examining the scene, one of the policemen looked into the closet and suddenly backed away behind the darkest face. I rushed over to see what I saw. A circle drawn on the floor by something dark and a small ball standing in the middle of the room and then slowly disappearing. The police said they found no marks and thought my daughter had just wandered around and gotten lost. but I knew Jack had taken her. The next night I slept on the living room sofa, and when I opened my eyes in the middle of the night, I saw Lily standing at the door, her hair down, her eyes in the eyes. I called her name, but she just said she thought Jack wanted to talk to her grandmother. As I got closer, the whole house went dark, leaving only a shadow on the wall. A child's voice echoed throughout my room, telling me I didn't want him there. I tried to run to the door, but it was locked. In the darkness, I saw two small eyes looking at me from the bottom of the stairs. I turned around and saw nothing, just Lily's shirt lying on the top of the stairs, looking as if it had been taken out of the water. From that moment on, I knew Jack wasn't just in my son's room anymore. He was in this house, everywhere I went. I no longer knew what world I was living in. Since the night Lily disappeared, the house had become unbearably hot. Every morning, I opened the door to the baby's room, but all that remained was the musty smell and a small shirt folded neatly on the bed. Sarah was completely devastated. She didn't say a word, just looked at the picture of her baby and cried. I spent my nights awake, listening to the sound of the door opening. One night, I heard Lily laughing in the kitchen, a laugh so clear and familiar, it made my heart ache. I rushed downstairs, but only saw my shadow reflected on the glass and the refrigerator opening automatically. Inside, all the furniture was broken, and there was a small scratch on the door, like a child's hand. I couldn't believe my eyes. I set up cameras in every room to record what was happening, and I huddled until the next morning. When I watched the video in the living room at 3 a.m., I saw the chair automatically open, a small shadow running across the screen and stopping in front of Lily's clothes. I zoomed in and clearly saw a faceless boy wearing a torn white shirt. I knew it was Jack. I told Sarah to leave, but she couldn't say no and left Lily. She believed her son was still there. I had no choice but to find out the truth. I went to the city library to find the records of this house. The collector said that in 1978, a family living here lost a boy named Jack under mysterious circumstances. The baby's mother said that someone in the house had been calling her name night after night. She disappeared shortly after, leaving only a note that she had failed to protect her child from it. When I got home, I found Sarah standing outside Lily's door, her face pale, holding a baseball bat. She said Lily was in there and that she was laughing with Jack. I rushed to hold Sarah, but when I touched her shoulder, her body turned cold. From the room, a small voice said, "Mummy, baby, and Jack were playing catch." I opened the door and there was no one there, but on the floor, small footsteps were coming from the clothes. I shone the flashlight into the room and two small eyes appeared and disappeared immediately. The door closed automatically and I was thrown back and cold. I called out her name, but only a small laugh came from within. I made Sarah run outside, but when I reached the stairs, all the doors were locked. The whole house was lit only by the pale light from outside. When I looked upstairs, I saw the shadow of a boy standing on the railing, smiling down at me, then disappearing into the darkness. This house was alive. It was not only inhabited by Jack's spirit, but also by something much more sinister that controlled it all. After that night, I couldn't sleep anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the image of the boy on the little balcony. Sarah became more and more quiet, sometimes talking to herself in Lily's room. I was worried but didn't know what to do. One day, when I was checking the living room floor because I heard a knock downstairs, I found a strange note. I took the box and opened it. Underneath was a compartment. Inside was an old wooden box, covered with dust. I opened it and saw a pile of old papers and a black photograph. It was a boy in white clothes, standing next to a woman with happy but expressionless eyes. Behind the picture was a small figure named Jack. I took out the letters and read them and found that they were written by the woman in him, probably Jack's mother. She told me how her son had started talking to someone in the house, someone no one could see. At first it was just teasing, but then Jack became different. He wouldn't sleep, wouldn't eat, just sat in the corner of his room talking to himself. She told me that at night he often cried and said that someone was standing at the head of his bed. The last letter said that I couldn't protect my son from him, that he had taken him. I felt myself shaking, my hands sweating. Every word was like a stab in the back of my mind. I showed these letters to Sarah, but she just looked at me and said this was just a past that had nothing to do with us. But I couldn't ignore it. That night, I put the letters into my study and cleaned the floor. When I cleaned, I saw small handprints in the dust on the floor, as if someone had just been swimming. I turned on the flashlight and followed the handprints to Lily's door. When I walked in, all the furniture was smashed. There were large marks on the wall and a sentence written in black letters. "I will never go." Lily's voice rang out behind me. "Mum, Jack said she read the letter. Jack said she will not be forgiven." I turned around and there was no one, but the wardrobe door slowly opened. Inside was a small circle drawn in black letters. I went back and the room started to burn. A small fire burst into flames, though I could not see its source. I turned off the light and ran outside to call Sarah, but she was gone. The house was locked. The electricity was off. The air was thick, as if someone was lying under the floor. I heard voices everywhere. Jack, Jack, Jack had no emotion, no laughter, only coldness. I truly believed that this house was completely destroyed and Jack was not just a trapped little soul but something much worse. I could no longer tell day from night. Whenever I tried to sleep, a faint laugh would come from inside the wall. At first I thought it was a hallucination of someone under pressure, but when I pressed my ear to the wall, I heard a soft, shuffling sound, small footsteps on the floor, and a childish voice saying Jack had been there for a long time. I jerked back, feeling cold. I pulled the chair back and leaned against the wall, and every time I touched it, I felt it shake slightly, as if it were breathing. I picked up a hammer and hammered on it to see what was inside, but at that moment, all the lights in the house went off, and the space was filled with darkness. In the darkness, I heard a long laugh and a cold voice calling my name, Grandma. I was stunned, not daring to move. When the light returned, I saw a long line on the wall, from which something dark and smelled strange oozed out. I turned on the flashlight and saw small, dark fingernails emerging from the line as if someone was swimming inside. I ran outside, calling for Sarah, but she was nowhere to be found. Her bedroom was wide open, and on the bed was a new letter written in reverse on white paper that I had already told him. I didn't know why, but I knew in my heart that Sarah had been taken by it. I decided to seek help from a paranormal expert. He was an old man named Martin, who specialized in researching haunted houses. When I brought him in, he said right away that there was something in this place that was not of this world. He stood in the middle of Lily's room, did a meditation, and said that there was a child's spirit in the house that was trapped, but behind it was another spirit that controlled everything. I asked what to do, and he said to imagine the place where it slept, and free it before it took over the people in the house. I also started to bang on the wall, and a laugh came out, and every time I did, the air became cold. When the wall was hit, a small amount of cold air burst out like from an ice cube. Inside was a dark chamber and a small wooden box sealed with a rope. Mr. Martin told me not to open it, but I couldn't help it. I opened the box and inside was Lily's old teddy bear, with a long cut on its surface and something black and lifeless inside. Just then, all the doors in the house slammed shut. Shadows came in and a little girl's laugh filled the room. Mr. Martin rang the bell, recited a verse, and the laugh began to be sweet. But just as I thought it was all over, a little child's voice started saying, "Jack never goes away." I turned and saw a little girl's shadow standing behind Mr. Martin, touching his shoulder, and he fell back motionless. All was silent except for the sound of drops falling on the floor. I knew I had opened something that should never be opened. After Mr. Martin fell down, I could only stand there silently, watching him motionless on the floor. The room was freezing, the lights were flickering, and every sound was swallowed up in silence. I called his name, but there was no response. When I pulled him out of my circle, dark spots appeared on his face. His eyes were sunken, as if staring into a void. I pulled him out, and all the doors of the house closed silently behind me. When I stepped outside, I saw that it was starting to rain, and the cold was so intense that it was unbearable. I called an ambulance, but when they came, they couldn't find anyone named Martin at the address I gave, as if he had never existed. I returned home. A small circular scratch appeared on the porch, and from there something black oozed out. Every time I looked at it, I felt dizzy, as if someone was looking back at me from underground. I opened the door, but every night I still heard the sound of knocking from downstairs, as steady as the heartbeat of someone living there. I decided to open the meditation room in the living room, where I had found the old room before. When I opened it, a cold air blew up and a childish laugh echoed softly. From inside the darkness, I saw a small arm reach out and then disappear. When I entered the room in the afternoon, I saw an old police box sealed with a rope. It was locked with a lock of some kind, with a single word "Jack" on it. I grabbed the hammer and turned it off, but the whole house was off, except for a blue light from the afternoon sun. When I put my ear to the floor, I heard Lily's voice, "Mummy, it's cold down there." My heart was pounding, and I pulled everything out and pounded on the floor until I finally unlocked the door. Down there was a narrow staircase leading down into my room. With each step I took, the air grew colder and the sound grew louder. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw a small room with walls that were upside down, and in the middle of the room was an old bed with a torn pillow and Sarah's dress on it. I couldn't believe my eyes. From inside me, Lily's voice rang out again, "Jack, I've missed you." I turned around and saw the shadow of a little boy standing in the doorway, smiling brightly, his teeth as white as needles. All the light was gone, and I could see nothing but the darkness that surrounded me. I ran down the stairs, but before I could get out, I felt someone grab me by the foot. I managed to knock off the stairs and dash out into the pouring rain. When I turned back to look at the door, I saw on Lily's bedroom window, written in reverse red, "I'll be here forever." I didn't have the strength to go in, but I knew that if I left, Jack wouldn't stay there. He would hunt me, like he hunted Sarah and Lily. The only thing I could do was go back to the room downstairs and end it all before it was too late. I returned to the house that night. The rain still had not stopped. The bitter cold was penetrating my lungs. I took the flashlight and Mr. Martin's old lunch with me, determined to end it all. When I opened the door, the cold air rushed out of the room as if there were no air inside. All the paint was still in its original position, but there were larger marks on the wall, as if someone had used a finger to scrape off each layer of paint. I went straight to the corner of the floor where the door was, every step making a creaking sound as if someone were walking with me. When I opened the door, a cold wind blew up like a whip, and from under my jaw came a musty smell of darkness. I went down at dusk and began to walk step by step. Every step I took down, the space seemed to shrink. The faintest whisper echoed, "Mummy, why did you come back?" I didn't answer, just kept walking. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw the silhouettes of people in their cloaks appear on the wall, moving in different directions as if they were surrounding me. In the middle of the room was an old bed, on which Sarah's blanket and dress were still intact. I walked closer and saw something lying quietly under the bed. I entered the room and saw a small box covered in white cloth, on which was written the word Lily. My hands were shaking, but I still opened the box. Inside were pictures of our family, but everything was covered with black cloth, leaving only the shape of a faceless boy in the middle. I heard a small laugh from all over the room, then from the ceiling down to the dark waters. The childish voice said Jack always wanted a family. All the shadows in the room began to move. The long shadows on the floor seemed glued to my chest. I tried to run, but my jaw was frozen. The flashlights flickered and then went out, leaving only a dark color. In the shadows, I felt someone touch my shoulder, cold. The small voice said in my ear, "Mum had given my baby to Jack, and now it was my turn." I called out, but no one heard. All the sounds in the room disappeared except for the sound of my heart beating so fast it hurt. From the shadows, I saw Sarah's shadow appear with bright eyes in the dark. She said Lily was so happy here, Jack had made her laugh again. I started to cry, tried to call my wife's name, but the cold laughter drowned out my words. The floor beneath me began to shake slightly, then slowly it collapsed, and I fell into empty space. When I came to, I was lying in the middle of a cold room, surrounded by a wall that seemed to have been sealed shut. I pounded on the wall for help, but only the laughter echoed back. The word I had said appeared upside down on the wall, with no escape. I knew that I was trapped here, with Jack, with all the souls it had captured before. Toi Kong beat Dar, Troi Quay, Bo Lao, Ketaki, Toi by Ket Dui, Ham Toi. Moi Thursday, Du Trong Bong Toi, Chi Con, Lei Tiang, No Jiat, Nuok, Orava, Tiang Quoi, Vong Vong. Mo Lan Toi, Ko Gang, Tim Duong, Ra Nung Tuong, Nu Kan Fong, Nei Thay, Doi Hindang. Tuong Di Chian, San Na Dap Doi, Nung Ji Tuong Nu Trong Mo. Toi Kem, Thay Moi Thursday, Quan Toi Tra, Nen, Amuak, Nu Koe, Dangdo, Bentai. Tieng Thi, Pham Kua, Tre Con Noi, Kong Ko, Loi Thote, Choengoi, Da Pham Toi. Toi Kio Den Pin Nung No Kong Sang, Chi Con Lei Mo, Luong Sang Mo, Titiaran Tu. Trong En Han Sang Yot Du, Toi Themo, Sai Bong No Di, Chian Roi, Mo Jong, Noi Bi No Noi Ro, Rang Jack Co, Mo Ngoi, Cha Moi Ngoi, Cha Moi Ingoi, Cha Moi. Tim Toi New by Bok Che, Toi Goi, Ten Lily, Goi Sarah, Nung Chi, Ko Tien, Koi Dap, Lei, Trong Bong Toi, Toi Thay Mo, Sai Bong No Quay Con Gai, Toi Bok Ra, Mat No Mo Man, Nu Quay Vo Cam. No Noi, Jack, Boba, Nen, Ode, Kong, Ai, Ngoe, Ken Bo, Enua. Toi Cork, Kong Tin Vao, Nung Ji Dang Eng, No Walk Toi Gan, cam te lan, boot vow, mat toy, va troncone, cock du toy, thay tat, cot here, hin, antrong, tau tro, nen toy mu. Toy thay kana, trong quay ku, thay mo dua, be try by not dui ham, koi cork, nung kong ai ku. Toy thay engoi, mi darquope, sinchman qua, min de thought koi no, nung lin hun duak, duak ma, tro-than, Thursday cock. Ki toy tin, lay toy, dang dung, juafong, catch qua, min, nung tat, kua min, nung tat, kua doi, by fu bi. An hasang, ben engoi, kok throng, Troy konkon mo, chi lamo, lop swang trang mo, toy mo, kuabwok, ra engoi, nung kan duon, den toy den, mo ken na, jong het na min, chikekla kwa mo sunshang. Toy bok vow, va thay, chin min dung, o trong, enjo ac, you knew by tan than bong. Jong jack vang, len kap fong, ong da, o day, roi kong kon, noi now, day dienua. More, Thursday zung quan bat, tau tan che, tu wong doi than chat den, mat santro, than kong day. Toi lao vau quan, trong trong. Toi rot shuang, roi mo, mat ro, famin, nam tiarong trong, fong fong lily. Kan bi, ngoi, ben kanom, congo, bongva, goino. No noi, ba engu, nu kwai, jack, noi ba, fio de voi. Bon kan, mai. Toi ko gang, dung de nung, than the new by dong bang. Moi ko bap, tal ko. Ti run, tuong, buckanan, giadin, duak, thay bang mo, buck, hincock. Trong dula toy Sarah, Lily, va, mo, dua bi, try, la jack. Doi mat no, nin ra, koi kung hin. Song dong nu the no dang quan, sat moi chayan. Tieng koi, no van, kap kan na, land lung va dai, dang. Toi nan ra kong fi toy, dang by mak ket trong, kanama la kan na da. Mak ket trong toy. Moya bork toidi, am than du, van theo, thi. Tham kong, ingong jack luon, o day. I no longer remember how long I have been in this house. Every day passes the same. The shadows on the wall do not follow the movements of my body. When I speak, there is no response, only the echoing laughter of children. On the living room wall, black shadows in the shape of human faces appear, each day different, as if someone is coming back while I sleep. I look out the window, but outside is only a white mist covered with veils. I try to open the door, but it leads me back to my own bedroom. Everything becomes repetitive, with no way out. I hear the sound of small footsteps running on the floor, then Lily's voice calling, "Daddy is here." I turn around and see the baby sitting in the middle of the room, a teddy bear in her arms, and behind her the shadow of a faceless boy. Jack said I had seen her, that I no longer belonged to this world. I felt something in my body change, grow colder, grow heavier. Every time I looked in the mirror, my eyes were open, my teeth were young and white. In my mind, a voice kept saying Jack just wanted a complete family, no one could leave. I tried to write words on the wall, but the next day they were gone, replaced by the words, "Jack is always here with her." I began to see other people in the house, but not Sarah or Lily. They were vague shadows of a man, another boy, an old woman, all with the same hollow eyes and the same laugh. They moved around me, saying things I did not understand. I went downstairs and heard the sound of a chair, the door opening, and someone laughing behind me. But when I turned around, there was only my shadow on the wall, and my shadow was laughing again. I realized that Jack was not just a child, but the spirit of this house itself, using everything like a trap to keep people here. I was the next one to be swallowed. Every day I felt my memories fading, my name disappearing. When I heard someone knock on the door, I went to the door and saw a yellow man standing outside, holding a small box of gifts. He said he had just bought this house and wanted to see the furniture. I smiled at him, opened the door, and said everything was ready for his family. He looked around and said he felt the air was cold and asked me if I had lived here long. I just smiled and said Jack would be happy to have someone new. When he turned away, I looked in the mirror and saw my reflection on the wall, no longer a living person. I understood that this vow would never end. Everyone who came here would become a part of the house. The small laugh rang out again, long, signaling the beginning of a new cycle. As soon as the man stepped into the house, I felt the atmosphere change. His name was Thomas, a lonely man who had just left the city to find a quiet place. When he entered, the house seemed to wake up. The shadows on the wall began to move. The creaking sound from the floor echoed. Thomas laughed at the old house that needed to be repaired. But he did not know that he had become the next person in the endless loop. He walked everywhere, touched everything, and each time he did, the temperature in the room dropped. I stood in the shadow watching, trying to call him out, but my words were only the sound of wind. When I came to, he was sleeping on my old bed. At 3 a.m., the closet door opened wide, and a long, low laugh and a child's voice rang out. Jack was happy that there was a newcomer. Thomas woke up with a start, and when he opened the door, he saw only a small ball of water on the floor. Its face was torn and its eyes were shiny. He thought it was a mouse, so he ignored it and went back to sleep. The next morning, he went to the basement to see why it was wet. When he opened the door, a cold wind blew out, making him shiver. When Thomas got downstairs, he found a dusty wooden box on Jack's head. He opened the box, and inside were old letters from me and Mr. Martin. The door was a little rusty, but he still read the last sentence I said. No way. Thomas thought someone had left the trash behind, so he put it on the stove. But he saw clearly that on each head, a small drop of blood was dripping down, making strange patterns on the floor. He called a friend to help fix the house, but the friend didn't come in, just stood outside, saying something was wrong with the house. When I looked at the friend, I saw his face turn pale and his eyes turned blank. He turned away, and Thomas laughed all the time. At night, the house shook again, and Jack's laughter echoed everywhere. Thomas began to dream like me, seeing eyeless children running round the bed and Sarah standing at the end of the room with him. Every time he tried to go out, the house brought him back to the living room. When he looked in the mirror, his image no longer moved. Jack was back, and this time he didn't want his father. He wanted someone else, a replacement. Thomas saw a boy standing beside him, holding his hand, saying in a clear voice, Jack was glad to have someone home again. I stood in the shadows, no longer a person but a part of this house, watching the wall repeat itself. Each person who came became a new piece of the vow. On the wall, the master appeared again. Jack was always here with us. The morning light entered the window, but nothing changed. The house began to close together again. The shadows in the wall moved irregularly. Jack laughed softly from the corner of the room, a laugh that was long and long, like a song that never ended. But as soon as Thomas arrived, the house came alive like a pulsating body. The walls were streaked with lines like the skin of fire, flickering in the dark. Every time Thomas turned on the light, the shadows grew faster, as if the light only intensified them. He tried to set up a camera to record everything, but the next morning, when he watched it, he saw himself asleep on the couch in the video, with a little boy standing behind him, smiling, then disappearing. He called another friend to help, a guy named Robert, who worked in engineering. Robert brought a thermometer to the house to check for unusual heat spots, and when the screen showed the blue color of the bedroom, there was a moving area of heat. When the closet door opened, only a cold breeze blew out. But on the temperature screen, the red area was still there, pulsing like a beating heart. Robert thought it was the machine's fault, so he turned off the device. But in the meantime, the whole house collapsed, darkness swallowing all the light. Thomas screamed, lighting up the surrounding lights. But all he could see was Robert standing motionless in the middle of the room, his face open, and a red line on his face was Jack. When Thomas got closer, he fell back, his body cold. A childish voice could be heard from everywhere saying, "Isn't this house beautiful?" Thomas tried to run, but there was no way out. Each door led to a long, endless hallway, with moving pictures on the walls, showing me and Sarah in the past, Lily laughing, Jack standing at the end of the room. Each picture was like a river, everyone in it looking out and laughing. He ran down that hallway, but eventually he returned to his bedroom. On the bed, the blanket was torn, its eyes were bright, and my voice was Thomas. He wouldn't get away. All Jack wanted was a family, and now it was there. He turned to look in the mirror and saw his face change. His eyelids darkened, his teeth sharpened, his skin turned to frost. I watched, knowing that Jack had entered him, become a new part of the house. When morning came, a new employee from the real estate company came to check the house, found the door wide open and no one inside. On the living room wall, there was only a red lettering. Jack was happy to have new friends. Everything became quiet, but when the wind blew, a faint laugh echoed from inside the closet. The house returned to its original state, just waiting for someone else to come. I watched from within my shadow, seeing everything repeating itself, a never-ending movie, a never-ending story. Jack had become the soul of this house, my son. I was just one of the shadows moving to his wedding music. A month later, a young woman named Helen came to see the house. She was a single person who had just left the city to find a quiet place to start her life again. The house seemed normal, but the cold and uninviting atmosphere made Helen feel that something was wrong. She thought it was just a feeling of living alone, so she decided to rent it again. The first night in the house, she heard a small noise like someone was shaking a chair. But when she went out to check, there was nothing. On the mirror in the hallway, there was a faint water stain as if someone had just touched it. She wiped it off, but the next morning, the stain reappeared. Every night, when Helen woke up because of the wind, she saw the mirror change color. The light in the house changed strangely. When she woke up, she saw her reflection in the mirror move slower than in reality. Another time, while brushing her teeth, a small mark appeared in the mirror in front of her eyes, and a drop of water came out. She touched it with her hand, and it felt cold, like touching the skin of a dead person. From that night, she began to have nightmares, in which she saw a little boy standing at the end of the bed, his face hidden by darkness. Every time she woke up, she saw Jack in the mirror, happy because he had returned. She thought someone had broken in and called the police, but when they arrived, they only saw a long house with damp walls. A police officer named David looked into the mirror and saw a different reflection from the real room. In the mirror, there was a man in a suit standing behind him, smiling. He turned around, but there was no one. That night, Helen decided to go to sleep in another room. The door was locked and all was dark, but at midnight a small voice called from the hallway. "Where are you going, Helen?" Jack asked. The second person, her feet pressed against the person, heard small footsteps getting closer. When she opened the mirror, it began to shake slightly, the light in it flickering. The shadow of a boy appeared and touched the mirror from inside. Helen was trembling all over. She tried to run to the door, but her hands were shaking too much. The mirror began to crack open, and from within a cold wind blew pieces of glass all over the room. In the next moment, she finally saw her own reflection in the mirror, but it was not her anymore. Her eyes were clear. Her mouth was smiling slightly. Behind her was Jack. The next morning, the neighbors found the house in ruins. Everything intact, except for the mirror, a small dress of Helen's. Next to it, on the wall, was a reverse inscription that read, "Jack always has new friends." The house went into the hallway again. Other people came, and I could only watch from the shadows. Every time the wind blew past the window, the mirror shook slightly, and Jack's small laugh rang out like a familiar greeting. On the winding road in the forest, it was raining so hard that no one could see the road surface. A man named Mark, a lost tourist, found Jack's old house. He just wanted to find a place to hide for the night. When he opened the door, the musty and smoky smell made him dizzy, but he thought that for the night it would be enough. He went inside, touched the wall, and saw many stains like dripping water on the wall. And in the middle of the room was a large mirror with broken hair. Mark put his bag on the chair, put his bag down, and slept on the sofa. Outside, the rain fell steadily. The rain sounds like the sound of people whispering. Around midnight, he was awakened by the sound of dripping water in the house. He thought he was being robbed, so he went to get the towel to check. But when he got to the living room, he saw drops of water falling from the mirror. Every time the drops of water touched the floor, they turned into small droplets and disappeared. He turned on the light and saw that the reflection in the mirror was not the same as the current room. In the mirror, the sofa was upside down, the door was wide open, and a little boy was standing in the middle of the room. He stood still. The sound of rain outside increased. The rain sounds like someone's small sound. He turned back to look out the window, but he only saw his own reflection on the glass. And behind that shadow was another, smaller shadow. He touched the mirror. The glass was cold, and a moment later, something sticky grabbed his finger. He jerked his hand away, and the glass cracked open a long crack. From the crack, water kept dripping out, and that night he slept in his bed. And in the morning, he felt as cold as a man without heat. When he went to the stove to make a cup of hot tea, there was a small wooden plate on the table with a note called Jack on it. Mark didn't know who had left it, but he saw that the watermark on it hadn't dried yet. When he put the plate down, the mirror in the room started to make a sound, as if someone had broken in from inside. He returned to the room, and the rain sounds outside turned into a loud banging sound on the glass. In the mirror, another scene appeared. A man who looked like him was sleeping on a chair, and behind him was a young boy. He stepped back, and the mirror shook violently. Another crack opened, and a small hand appeared. Mark ran out the door, but the wind made a strong sucking sound, as if it had a force that pulled him back. He fell down. The rain outside was slipping away, but inside the house, no rain had come in. Faces began to appear on the mirror, all of them smiling. He tried to look away and saw the upside-down words "Jack was happy when the rain came" on the wall. He ran out into the rain, but when he turned back, he saw that the house was gone. Only the mirror was standing in the middle of the road. In the mirror was himself standing there, beside Jack, smiling softly. The sound of the rain that night no longer sounded like rain, but like the laughter of children floating in the wind. After Mark disappeared, that house became a place that no one dared to go near. The villagers said that at night, when they passed by, they would see the window open twice, a golden light coming from inside, and the shadow of a man standing behind the curtain. Some young people had already gone inside, but all of them said that they did not see anyone, only heard soft laughter and the sound of water falling on the floor. The mirrors were still on the floor, but the thing was that each mirror reflected a different scene. Some showed a laughing boy, some showed a man sleeping on a chair, and some showed only a shapeless darkness. One day, a videographer named Daniel, a YouTuber who tells stories, came there to film a clip for his channel. He brought a camera, flashlights, and modern recording equipment. He wanted to create a video of the ruined house, believing it was just a rumor. When it came, it started to drizzle again, the rain sounds hitting the glass windows, creating a steady sound. Daniel opened the door. The creaking sound rang out like a greeting. He turned on the flashlight and walked around the room. Everything was covered in dust, but on the wall were many small handprints like children's. He took a video, telling the audience that he would stay until morning to see what happened. Late at night, when it was raining, he placed the camera in front of the broken mirror. In the frame, there was only him and the mirror, but after a few seconds, he saw on the screen a small shadow appear behind him. Daniel turned around, but there was nothing, only the steady sound of water dripping. He laughed, and it was just his shirt, then turned back to the screen, but the shadow got closer, clearly a faceless boy. He turned on the flashlight behind him, but saw nothing. The mirror shook, the button opened, and a small sound came from inside. He sat down and told the audience that this was how they made horror movies, but at that moment, everything in the house stopped. The camera was still running, only he had light from the flashlight on the floor. In the darkness, a child's voice rang in his ear. Jack was happy that someone had come to play. Daniel screamed, turned back, and saw the mirror had opened, and a small arm appeared. All the cameras dropped. The angle tilted. Only his leg was stuck in the shadow. The next morning, the villagers found the front door camera. The screen was still on, and the ending was a picture of a little boy smiling, saying Jack wanted more friends. The videos were uploaded to the internet, becoming one of Jack's most creepy. Every time it was bought, the clip went viral again, and people still saw Daniel standing behind the window, smiling at people on the street. 3 young friends named Alex, Brian, and Kate are people who love to explore abandoned places. They heard about the story of Jack's ruined house online and decided to go there to experience it for themselves. They brought along tea, food, and a night camera. It was starting to rain lightly, but Alex laughed, and that place only made the camping experience more strange. They stopped about 30 meters from the old house, near a corner of a forest with many pine trees. At night, the rain fell steadily. The sounds of nature mixed with the wind. The rain sounds like whispers. They sat around a small fire, telling each other scary stories online, mentioning Jack's name many times. Every time that name was mentioned, the wind increased. The fire danced more strongly. Kate said she felt like someone was watching from afar, but Brian laughed and said it was just a dream. Later that night, when they went to bed, Alex woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of small footsteps moving around the yard. He thought it was the wilderness, so he turned on the flashlight, but there was only mist and swaying tree shadows. He turned back, but he heard small laughter right next to his ear. Jack was happy to have guests. He woke up, turned on the flashlight, and Brian and Kate were still fast asleep. When he went outside, he saw small footsteps on the ground moving towards the house. He decided to follow, the air getting colder and colder with each step. When he reached the door, he saw it was wide open and the light from the room was faint. On the wall were long, high marks like a child's hand. He walked in and saw the mirror in the middle of the room with a button. His reflection on it, but his face in the mirror was dark again. Laughter came from the mirror, and a small shadow appeared behind him. He turned around, but saw only his shadow stretched out on the floor. Jack's cold laugh echoed throughout the room. Outside, Brian was awakened by the scream. Ran to Alex, but only saw his friend's broken leg and his friend's foot entering the house. He and Kate went inside together, but the house was empty. Only the mirror was brightly lit. Brian went closer and saw Alex standing behind him in the mirror, laughing and touching his shoulder. When he turned around, there was no one, but the mirror echoed loudly and shattered. All the shadows were covered. The next morning, people found the three young friends missing, all naked and very wet. No one saw the three young friends anymore. Only a small piece of paper on the mirror remained, which made Jack very happy to have someone new. Every rainy night, whoever passed by, they would hear the small laughter and see the faint light coming from the house in the middle of the forest, as if someone was still there experiencing camping and would never return. At dawn, when the rain had stopped, a rescue team of 5 people arrived at the scene where the 3 young friends finally appeared. Locals warned against going near the old house in the woods, but the rescue team did not believe in the supernatural. They only brought flashlights, a flashlight, and a camera to check the area. When they arrived, the air had turned unusually cold, and a thick mist surrounded the area, muffling all sound. The leader of the group was James, a man with many years of experience in the area. He stood in front of the house, looking into the large door, saying that he would only go in to check for a moment and then leave. Everyone walked in a line, each step making a screeching sound as if someone was walking on the ground. In the living room, they saw fresh water stains, but no sign of anyone living there. On the table was a broken mirror, and on it was Jack. A member named Luke started laughing, saying that someone must have been there filming. But when he turned away, his shadow was stretched out on the wall, and in the shadow was another small head. James told the group to go down to the dungeon to find the stain, but when he opened the door, a cold wind blew out and all the lights flickered and went out. In the darkness, a child's voice rang out. Jack was happy because there were so many people playing. A female member screamed, then fell silent. When the light came back on, there were only 4 of them. On the floor was her wet and cold body. They ran out of the dungeon, but the door to the house closed from the outside. Luke knocked on the door in vain. Then everyone heard laughter everywhere. Small hands appeared on the wall. People from my bedroom on the 2nd floor. They were forced to go up. Every step on the stairs made a small, crying sound. When the bedroom door opened, the mirror was stuck in the middle of the room. Their reflection was no longer centered. There were 5 people in the mirror, but outside there were only 4. James started to turn, realized it, and shouted for everyone to run, but Luke was glued to the mirror. His eyes were clear before disappearing. All the lights were off, except for the light from the lamp on the floor. James turned everything off, the door to leave the house, but outside it was different. The house stood in the middle of a clear space, with no sound, no road, only mist all around. The other members gradually disappeared into the mist. Only James stood still, his hands shaking. He heard a child's voice in Jack's ear, wanting to go with him. When he turned back, only the mirror stood in the mist, reflecting his face in it, smiling faintly. When the other rescuers arrived, they found only their rescuers left behind, but no one. On the door, the owner kept appearing. Jack was never alone. The following week, a young journalist named Kevin, who worked for a magazine specializing in paranormal phenomena, came to the forest where Jack's old house was. He had heard stories about missing people there, and wanted to find out the truth. Kevin, who did not believe in the supernatural, brought a camera, a sound recorder, and a thermal imager to record everything. When he got near the forest, he found the air unusually cold. The birds were not hot, and the fog was thick. The sound of footsteps on the ground seemed to be sucked away. When he got there, the house was still there, damp and wet, the door wide open as if waiting for someone. Kevin stepped in, turned on the flashlight, and turned around to look at every corner. On the living room wall, there were still wet water stains, as if someone had just passed by. He found a small piece of glass on the floor. On the glass there was a red stain from dried skin. He turned it on and saw Jack laughing. Kevin thought it was a joke, but when he turned on the recorder, he heard a child's voice on the machine, though he had never said anything. Jack didn't like laughter. The sound was clear, not coming from the sand, but as if someone was listening right next to his ear. He felt a chill down his spine, but kept playing. When he went up to the second floor, he saw an abandoned room, a dusty bed, and a broken mirror in the middle of the room. He shined the flashlight on it, and the reflection in the mirror was not him, but another man, white teeth and clear eyes. He backed away, his dark eyes flickering and then going black. In the darkness, he heard a small laugh and the sound of footsteps running on the floor. Kevin opened the battery of his phone and saw many small wet handprints on the wall. He turned back down the stairs to the outside, but the door froze. When he stood in front of the door, the second floor mirror began to vibrate, a long warning sound. A light flashed from the mirror and then went out. He turned on the thermometer, and on the screen a red circle moved around the room, but no one was there. He shouted for someone to come out, but the only response was the childish Jack wanting him to stay. He ran to the window and jumped out, but when he landed on the ground, he realized he was still standing in the middle of the living room, as if he had never left. On the wall, a new, larger sign said Jack would not let anyone go. He waved the umbrella, and all the equipment went off. When they found Kevin's car outside, it shook, and the darkness was still there, but he was gone. There was only one recording found on the recorder. The last sound was the sound of rain and a child's laugh. Jack has a new friend. The recording was uploaded to the internet. Everyone who heard it said that the laugh was still there. It kept repeating over and over, even after the recorder was turned off. Even now, anyone who passes by that forest says they can hear the laugh echoing in the mist, and the little shadow of a boy standing behind the window, laughing softly at passers-by. Kevin's older brother Michael was a cool and practical person who did not believe in ghost stories. After Kevin disappeared, the police only found his brother's car near the forest, and there were no other signs. Michael could not accept the conclusion that his brother had simply disappeared, so he decided to go there to find out the truth. That night, he brought a flashlight, a camera, and a small knife. When he got close to the forest, the fog was thick, the sky was starless, there were no birds, only the sound of the wind. Jack's old house stood silent in the darkness, the door wide open as if waiting for someone. Michael walked in, each step making a loud echo on the wet wood floor. He called Kevin's name loudly, but only an echo answered. On the living room wall, the water stains were still not dry, and on the floor there were small, childlike paper stains. He closed the chair, put the camera on the table, and started recording everything. He told the camera that he would find out the truth about what had happened to his brother. When he went to the second floor, the air was getting hot. He saw a small bedroom with a broken mirror. The mirror had black stains on it, as if it had been burned. Michael walked closer, shone the flashlight in, and saw in the mirror not himself but Kevin. Kevin smiled softly. His teeth were white, and a childish voice said Jack did not like the person who had helped his family. He went up, turned the flashlight down, but the mirror was no longer there, only a black line on the wall. From that line, a small hand appeared and grabbed his leg. Michael tried to get away but couldn't. The laughter of children was everywhere, and then all the lights went out. When he opened his eyes, he was standing in the middle of the dark. But the walls were full of people's faces, all of them Kevin, each one laughing. He turned the lights around and saw a wooden box on the table, on which was a jack machine. He opened it and saw Kevin's recording machine inside, still working. The last sound from the machine was Kevin's voice. Jack had found a replacement. He turned the machine, looking for a way out through the locked doors. On the wall, the pictures began to move. Kevin inside turned to look at him and laughed. When he stopped, a drop of water fell from the ceiling, then another, and all the space began to melt. He ran up the stairs, but there was no exit. Only another mirror appeared. In the mirror reflected a normal house. His child in it laughed like someone else. The next morning, the police found Michael's camera. The last footage was just an image of him walking close to the mirror and disappearing inside. The house was sealed after that. No one was allowed in anymore. But people who lived nearby still said that on rainy nights, the house would light up again, and the children's laughter echoed like a message from a passing newspaper. 5 years later, people decided to demolish Jack's old house to build a new road. The project started in early autumn when the mist was still thick on the forest. The group of workers, more than 10 people, all did not believe in spiritual stories. They only considered it folklore. The first day everything was normal, but in the afternoon it suddenly rained heavily. The construction manager named Thomas gave everyone a rest and went to check the place. When he returned to the old house, the air was so cold that it was unbearable. He used a flashlight to shine inside, but saw nothing but stains on the wall and broken mirrors. Thomas turned around and heard children's voices coming from inside. Jack did not want his house to be destroyed. He stood still, his eyes were closed, and the reflection of a smiling boy was clearly visible in the front mirror of the house. That night, it rained all night, and a few days later it was morning, but Thomas did not come to work. His colleagues came to the house, only to find his shirt and flashlight lying on the floor, the mirror reflecting his face. But since that day, everyone who passed by said they saw a small shadow standing in the mist watching. The house demolition project was closed indefinitely, and no one wanted to go near it. A young engineer was hired to evaluate it. His name was Ryan, a member of the new generation, did not believe in ghost stories. He arrived in the afternoon, and it was starting to rain again. As he approached the site, his thermometer started to tick, and the temperature dropped rapidly. He turned the camera around and saw a boy standing in the middle of the house, wet hair, dark eyes, and smiling. Ryan thought it was someone who had broken in, so he approached. But when it got darker, the shadow disappeared, leaving only the mirror. He turned back around but on the screen was his own image in the mirror and Jack beside him. He was horrified, turned off the camera and ran back to his car. But when he got to the main road, the mirror had been in the back seat for some time. He turned back to look and saw Jack's reflection smiling at him. Just a week later, Ryan was found suddenly in his car. His eyes were open and his hands still holding the camera. In the final footage, all that was left was the image of the house standing in the middle of the fog, the door wide open, and a boy walking out smiling before the lights went out. Since then, no one has been allowed near that place. People who pass by the forest on rainy nights still see the golden light and the laughter of children everywhere. Jack's promise never ends. It only waits for the next person to enter. Even now, every time it rains and the mist covers the forest, people can still hear Jack's voice, happy because he is not alone.